5 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Whitman Middle School Feasibility Study and Building Committee to order. This meeting is being held fully remotely in accordance with the governor's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And if you could join me in a quick moment of silence. Thank you. First up would be the minutes from January 11th, 2021. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Chris Scriven, second by Beth. And we'll have to have a roll call vote. Chris Scriven.
Yes. Yes.
Ron Galvin.
Yes.
Lincoln Heineman.
Abstain since I wasn't part of the committee. Thank you.
From Beth.
Yes.
Dave Cordero.
Yes.
Kerry Sandler.
Yes.
Crystal Regan.
Yes.
Rich Pulkinen.
Yes.
Bob Curran.
Yes.
I'm not sure who iPad is. Don't know. Don Essen.
Yes.
Dan Cullity. Dan, are you there?
Yes.
Randy Lamattina.
Yes.
And whoever is 781-760-1934.
That's Rich. It's just my phone number. I called in.
Oh, okay, no worries. And perhaps someone else is also tied in with their iPad. I don't see it muted. Oh, okay. I know who it is. We're all set. Not a voting member. So all in favor was unanimous except for Lincoln abstaining. Status of the eligibility period. I'm going to turn this over to Jeff, for a little bit here and go down where we're at, what our next steps are, and what we're going to need to be doing. Jeff?
Thanks, Fred. So briefly, we've completed eligibility, which is module run, and I believe Michelle sent you the eight modules of a project. And module one is the eligibility period, which we have sent out all the components for eligibility. And I'll review those for folks. There was the initial compliance certification. We formed the school building committee. The educational profile questionnaire went out. The online enrollment rejection was certified. It was executed and certified. The maintenance and capital planning information went to MSBA. The local vote was last year. And the feasibility agreement, which we've sent to MSBA prior to February 26th, has been executed. So right now we're in the holding pattern. We have sent everything in through module one for approval by MSBA. Our next meeting with MSBA is April 14th, which they will then determine whether or not we will move to the next module, which is the project team, prior to feasibility. The April 14th meeting hasn't been set yet as far as the time, but they just gave us the time, a date to book into for our calendar so that we could meet via Zoom with their team out in Boston. The module two, which off the record, our liaison said that everything we sent looked excellent, and we probably will be getting the nod to go to the project team. So just to brief the public who's out there, where we're at is module two project team. Once all the prerequisites have been completed to the satisfaction of MSBA, the district secures the team of professionals using MSBA specific procurement processes and standard request for service templates, and contracts to work with the district as the proposed project advances through the MSBA grant process. So we're there. we're waiting to hear from MSBA on whether or not we move forward, that everything was good. And then we will have to form that project team prior to going to feasibility study.
And Jeff?
Yep.
One of the steps in there, as I'm reading, is we have to designate a full-time employee of the municipality or the school district who also must be a Massachusetts certified purchasing public official, or MCPPO. I believe that for this committee is Lincoln.
I believe so.
So we will be.
Welcome to the group, Lincoln. You're the guy.
Thank you. And maybe, Jeff, you and I can talk offline. I want to make sure that I'm clear on exactly what the responsibilities of that piece are, but we don't need to get into that. But if you give me a call and we could talk about that, that'd be great.
Sure. And just before we move on, Fred, because that is that person, I just want to, I don't think we met, but I do believe I sent an email out, or Michelle did, about enrollment and the enrollment projections of the building project, and when we were going back and forth. Initial MSBA projections had the new Whitman Middle School at 5 through 8, around 575 students. They have agreed with us in our study that we did that it will be built for 675 students, 5 through 8. And they're also, if for some reason they choose or we choose to modify that, they will build a building for 6 through 8 at 515. The 675 based upon enrollment projections in the town of Whitman, thanks to Mr. Curran and everything that he's provided us. And we contracted out with an outside vendor to do an enrollment study. 675 students, 5 through 8, will be sufficient for the town's growth and for us to provide a very good education for the students of Whitman in a 5 through 8 middle school.
Mr. Galvin.
Yeah, I have a question on that, and since you were discussing it, the decision on building a grade 5 through 8 school versus building a grade 6 through 8 school, what will be the process in that, and when exactly do we need to make that decision, and how will that decision be made?
So educationally, we have recommended a 5 through 8 to coincide with our 5 through 8 school in Hanson. As far as what rolls out as a decision from this committee or the school committee, I'm not sure of that timeline. I want to see, once we get into feasibility, they will give us those options. Usually a school has a set number. Since we have 2, I believe on the April 14th meeting, if they grant us moving forward, there will be another meeting to give us specific timelines and give us some direction on what type of building, or if it's our choice, a combination of the board of directors' choice or something else. George, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, I truly believe that a 5 to 8 middle school is the optimum thing you want to build. I had the pleasure of being an assistant principal at a 5 to 8 middle school when the school first became a 5 to 8. And when you think about the adolescent stages of a child going from ages 9 or 10 to 14, it really does encapsulate it. And it also mirrors what then happens in high school. So I know that we've traditionally been a 6 to 8 just because that's the way things have evolved. But when you really think about it, a 5 to 8 is an exciting time because you can set up the school in very different ways for the different stages of the adolescent phases that the kids go through. So grade 5 and 6 might look different. Grade 7 and 8 could be more getting them ready for high school. But it does offer, because of Hanson and because of the way we're doing this, it really does offer a truly unique setting that really does work for kids at that age span.
Go ahead, Mr. Galvin.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's the information that we want to hear, and certainly we'll need to take into consideration. But the other thing we'll need to hear is how much more is it going to cost the Whitman taxpayer to build a 5 through 8 versus a 6 through 8, and weigh, the costs versus the benefits. Obviously, we want to hear everything that we possibly can hear and weigh it out. I mean, if it's significantly more money, then we're going to have to take that into consideration.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Anybody else have any questions on that? And, it was my understanding that MSBA would also be having a lot of input into that as well. In other words,
Correct.
what they'll pay for and how they'll, what they want to see built as a project, so to speak. When we get to that stage, so, and I believe that's right about the designing stage, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
Again, I think once we get in on the 14th, what I'm understanding is the 14th, they're going to move us forward and then set up a separate meeting to discuss next steps at forming that project team. Who should be on that project team and making those decisions? Because it'll be a separate, it'll be a smaller group of this who then will be on that, to be members of that project team. So the 14th is the date that I've got it circled on my calendar. Everybody's worked very hard. I know this committee has been relatively stagnant, but it's more like the military, hurry up and wait. You have to get the committee formed and then stay there. And once we move into, if we're selected, once we go into after April 15th or 14th, I believe we're going to be running at lightning speed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just a quick question. Do we have a sense to the extent that the MSBA has, to the extent that they have input on the 5 through 8 versus 6 through 8 question, do they have their input based on educational needs, about age of existing buildings? I mean, what goes into their thought process to the extent that, I know you said you're going to find out sort of how much of an input they have on that, but or how much they want to have in on that, but what goes into their thinking on that?
So when we wrote the statement of interest, we were really looking at a 5 through 8, and we laid out exactly why we wanted a 5 through 8. But because it's a current 6 through 8 building, that's why they gave us that 6 through 8 number as well. This is something that we put in to saying this is what we'd like it to be. So they gave us that number. I don't know, Lincoln, exactly how much input they have into the direction of the academics that we want. I think they look at it strictly financial as well, to make sure it's a building that can be beneficial for the residents and students of Whitman for a long time to come. They don't want to make a poor investment either. So I think they will have some input, but I think it's going to be directed by this committee.
And then add some milk to consistency.
How
Yeah,
much?
Dave, mute yourself, Dave.
Dave, you're on.
Dave, mute
Anyway.
yourself.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
No worries.
I can add on just a little bit, and I don't know if things are still the same, but I do recall from the Hanson project with the McQuon, which started off as just the McQuon School, and MSBA stepped in and said, hey, wait a second. You guys need to look in, your Indian Head School is older, it's going to need a lot of work, needs a roof, et cetera, et cetera. What if you combine the two and built one school? So they do have some parameters, but that's all well and early in the stage here. It's not like we're going to be going 6 months, 8 months from now, and they say, hey, wait a second, guys, what about? That shouldn't happen. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, moving on. Jeff?
So I kind of talked about the April 14th meeting. Then we will form the project team based upon their recommendations of who the people should be on that project team. Like I said, there's 2 separate meetings. There's one about moving forward into the project team. If we're approved and we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's and everything is accepted, we're there. The second meeting will be about the formation of that project team. And then we will move into, once they accept the project team, we'll move hopefully right into eligibility, this module number 3. And I know everybody has a copy of the modules. Again, there are 8 of them. Eligibility, project team, feasibility, schematic design, project scope and budget, design, development, construction, documentation, and bidding. Module 7 is construction and administration, and module 8 is finally the closeout. This is going to be my first building project. On this side, I was a principal when we started building a building in West Bridgewater. It's an exciting time. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of meetings, but if we come out with a new building or a renovation, depending upon where feasibility goes, it will be an exciting time for the town of Whitman and Whitman Middle School. Any questions about the project team or the board meeting? Fred, if you don't mind, I just did the module review as well. Folks have that. We'll post this on the website as well. Everything that we get from MSBA, there'll be a docket as far as Whitman Middle School project, so we can keep people up, the residents as informed as possible. And as we move forward in the project, we'll start to give more and more information about where we stand in the project and what the outcomes will be for the residents. People have already started talking about dollars, how much it will cost. We have no idea based upon what type of building we're going to be doing, whether it's a 6 through 8, a 5 through 8, whether it's a renovation or a new building. But on the MSBA website, which is Mass School Buildings, I believe .org, you can look at some of the building projects that have been done locally and across the Commonwealth and what their costs were.
And, again, we have, different things to consider. And once we even start talking to architects, do they turn around and try and find a different part of the property, to be able to build upon, as opposed to trying to, get it torn down and rebuilt. And we're scattering kids all over the place for, however long it takes for construction. So I think we have a distinct advantage, the same as we had for the high school. We have somewhere where we could perhaps build while students are still in school and they could still be safe. So, that could be a wonderful opportunity for us too. This was more of a meeting to keep everyone together and keep the interest going. I know a few of you have reached out and said, hey, when are we getting together again? So we wanted to make sure that at least we had a little bit of a path of where we're going and what we're going to be doing. April 26th, I think, is our next scheduled meeting, so that way there we can hopefully at that point be working toward a team that will select a project manager. And once that's done, then we have the request for services, for a designer as well. And then we're really making hay, so to speak. Jeff, do you have anything else?
No, I agree with you, Fred. It's more informational. That April 14th date is the one we're hanging on to. I mean, if we have to submit something else, we'll follow up with this team on the 26th, but everything looks good right now. And once they move us forward, hopefully, we'll have some positive information. We'll get that project team together and start moving this project forward.
Matter of fact, we can do a quick recap in an email, and just an email to all, do not reply, after the meeting, just to keep everyone up to date as the results of that meeting right afterwards, within the next day. That sound reasonable, Jeff?
Absolutely, we can do it.
All right. If nobody has anything else to bring forward, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Scriven? Do we have a second? Dan Cullity's waving his arm. Roll call vote. Chris?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Lincoln?
Yes.
John Galvin?
Yes.
Dave Cordero?
Yes.
Carrie Sandler?
Yes.
Crystal Regan?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob Curran?
Yes.
Mr. Cullity?
Yes.
Mr. Russin?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Please go out and try and enjoy some sunshine. It is
Take care.
gorgeous out.
Thanks, Fred.
Have a good
Bye,
evening.
folks. We'll see you.
Thanks, folks.